Welcome to this episode of our program, Daily Debate. As usual, we will be discussing an important debate. Today we'll be speaking about a very important area of Egypt, Upper Egypt. And definitely Egypt has been carrying on with its developmental plans, its Vision 2030, and is accelerating with implementation of many of the projects for many reasons. First, to put Egypt on the right track as a regional power. Second, to put Egypt as a state that attracts foreign direct investments. Third, to be a regional economic partner. And definitely to fulfill the people's aspiration and build a brighter future for generations to come. All these are going in parallel. And in order to achieve that, Egypt has been carrying out with a very ambitious plan. And this plan has several dimensions: the political, the economic, and the social, all together. Today we'll be focusing on Upper Egypt and the developmental projects that have been carried out in 7 years in this area. The cabinet has already released a report on Upper Egypt's comprehensive development plan, projects over the 7 past years in various sectors as part of the country's all-out development plan. In this or during this period, the report pointed out to the projects carried out in various Upper Egyptian governorates, including infrastructure, health, tourism projects, as well as the presidential initiative Haya Karima, or Decent Life, which aimed at improving the living conditions of people in the Egyptian villages. I think it covers nearly 58 to 60 million people. It also referred to projects in the fields of water, sanitary drainage, oil refineries, irrigation, and development of water canals in the Upper Egyptian governorates of Minya, Syut, Beni Suef, and Fayoum. According to the report, important projects such as animal wealth to increase meat production at the cost of 1.8 billion. Imagine one important project is carried out with 1.8 billion pounds were carried out, in addition to other projects in the fields of higher education, health, as well as a number of hospitals that were established to improve the health of citizens and get rid of serious disease such as hepatitis C, according to the presidential initiative 1 million healthy lives. We'll be speaking about Upper Egypt tonight. We'll be speaking about the development that took place in this particular Andia area. We'll be speaking about that with our very distinguished guest, Dr. Fakhri, Feky, Professor of Economics, Cairo University, and former member of board of the Central Bank of Egypt. Thank you so much for being with us.
My pleasure to be with you. It has been so long to meet you in this TV show.
It's always our pleasure to have you.
Thank you.
Seriously. We move on with our discussion, but before we delve into our discussion, let's have this first report. And President Sisi inaugurates major development projects in Upper Egypt. Let's watch.
President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi inaugurated a major complex for producing benzene at the Asyut Petroleum Refining Company in Upper Egypt, in addition to several infrastructure projects in the region. Presidential spokesman Ambassador Bassam Radi said that the Asyut complex is the largest petroleum complex in Upper Egypt to date. He added that it is one of the state's strategic projects that aim to develop Upper Egypt by securing benzene supplies to the region. During the inauguration event in Asyut, Sisi inaugurated over video conference a number of other infrastructure projects in the region, including the Abu Quras power plant, a hospital for treating liver diseases, Dir Mawas Central Hospital, Malawi Specialized Hospital, and Samalut Model Hospital in Minya. The President also inaugurated projects of expansions to several water plants in Inna, the Faculty and Hospital of Dentistry in the University of Asyut, the Children's Specialized Hospital, and Aziz Hospital for Women and Childbirth in Luxor, and Hospital for Mental Health in Suheg. In a speech during the event, Prime Minister Mustafa Madbouli said that the state has drawn a comprehensive plan to develop Upper Egypt in order to remedy historic marginalization and poor services. The Prime Minister asserted that the state has put development of Upper Egypt at the top of its priorities. He noted that the state has been working to improve the quality of life for Egyptian citizens by implementing several development projects. Dr. Medbouli added that the government has pumped investments worth £1.1 trillion into projects to develop Upper Egypt's governorates, with a successful 96% rate of implementation. He detailed the projects the state has concluded over the past 7 years in Upper Egypt, stressing that such projects aim both to raise the standard of living for citizens and also maximize the use of the region's natural resources. The Premier revealed that several projects have been implemented to provide drinking water as well as raise sewage coverage rates at a cost of £45 billion in Upper Egypt. The government also constructed 188,000 housing units in the region at a cost of £41.5 billion that have been equipped with the necessary services and utilities. The state has also connected natural gas to 11 million housing units in Upper Egypt and established and developed 63 projects in the health sector. Furthermore, 14 major road axes are being constructed across the Nile River at a cost of £23.5 billion.
Welcome back, and indeed it needs lots of courage and real will in order to change situations, particularly after what Egypt has seen. Let me again welcome our distinguished guest, Dr. Fakhri al-Feky, Professor of Economics here at University and a former member of Board of the Central Bank of Egypt. Again, thank you very much for being with us. And let me start with, ever since President Fattah al-Sisi assumed office, and he started a kind of revolutionary plan for sustainable development that went along or in parallel to his fight against terrorism and all the other challenges. You're reading to the situation, you're reading to such a development plan, and how far did we go?
Okay. Let me at the very beginning focus on the video that we just saw right now, that let me tell the viewers that tomorrow will be better for Egypt. Sure. Why I'm saying that? Because now we have a revolutionary development in Egypt in every aspect of life. Egypt now enjoying stability in its political front, security front, in addition to economic and social front. So Egypt is a safe haven country amid of hurricane around Egypt. So Egypt right now, thanks God that Egyptians, together with the government and our leader, President Fattah al-Sisi, that we are moving ahead for this stability in Egypt. To put what we're going to say in its right framework, right now Egypt in the economic front, we are enjoying stability based on economic growth. Unemployment is lower, inflation rate is down, budget deficit is leveling down. In addition to the debt, public debt, contained by very rational efforts by the Ministry of Finance and the government. Also, when we talk about reserve at the central bank, it's a decent level of foreign reserve at the central bank, covering the needs of Egypt for import for 7 months, and that's above the minimum level of 3 months. If we talk about the exchange rate of the Egyptian pound vis-a-vis the dollar and other foreign currencies, it's stable in the last 4 years at the level of 15.7 Egyptian pounds for the dollar. Balance of payment deficit is getting less. So those macroeconomic indicators shows that shows stability in the our economic performance. This was led by or the reason because Egypt adopted and implemented successfully an economic reform program since 2016, since almost 5 years ago. And we continue our economic reforms in the second phase, second part of structural reforms. It will continue with us for the coming 3 years. Structural reforms is very important to the Egyptian economy to show its resilience against any sudden crisis like the one we have, COVID-19. And any sudden crisis, then Egyptian economy is strong enough and resilient to face those. Also, efforts are performed, is done by the Egyptian government and our Egyptian people, Egyptian citizen, and the leadership of Egypt to make the Egyptian economy more justice. So what we call it the social safety net is strengthened so as to make the people, low-income people, they can have their part in our economy and they can live in a decent standard of living. So by raising the minimum wage and also by improving the health, the health services, education, a new education system. So we spend a lot for health and education, so as to abide by the Constitution article, the total spending to be not less than 10% of the GDP. So right now, for this year, it will exceed 10%. It reached 11. In this current year, fiscal year, it reached 11.5%, above the 10% minimum. So in this case, we can say that our economy will be more flexible by giving more room for the private sector to play. But after qualifying our private sector, and the majority of our private sector, it's SMEs, small and medium-sized and micro-sized enterprises. So we try to qualify those private sector. It represents 70% of our private sector. As President Sisi mentioned, that private sector is welcome to join forces with the economic development in Egypt and investment, especially in the Upper Egypt. We just watched the present inauguration of the complex of gasoline in Asyut.
Yes.
And they spent almost, it cost like almost 8 billion Egyptian pounds.
One of the biggest.
Yeah, one of the biggest. So that's very good step toward that. The Upper Egypt will have, say, quick supply of gasoline, high quality of gasoline. So in this case, we have a lot of efforts in all different wide range of activities. Decent life, Haya Karima, so on the coming three. So we have many. That's why I say for Egyptians, tomorrow will be better compared to what is going on around us.
Let's divide what you said into sections, right? Because you have mentioned the whole issue in one answer. Let me here start with reading into the president's and what he said during the inauguration of such a refinery plant, and also some of the developmental projects.
Yeah.
And he made he made many statements.
Yes.
Actually, he spoke about the land reclamation and how important that he warned about three important issues: the growth of population and how did you read the statements of the president and his keenness for people to be or to be very transparent with the people in what challenges we meet and in how we are facing and what we are doing?
Yes, I was carefully watching his speech today, talking to the Egyptian citizen. He's very smart when he talks to his people. He covered a lot of challenges facing Egypt right now. He addressed the problem of population, high rate of rapid increase in population, the rate of growth of population.
Enormous.
Yes, smartly he was talking to the people that a lady came to him that I have 6 children. I want to, say, give
And he
them.
said, I have 100 million.
100 people needs to be to take care of them. So it's very smart, and this is a message to all new married Egyptians that say when they get married. So okay, what happened is happened. What happened is happened. But what I mean for the future, I mean for the new generation when they get married. So what I mean is to take care of that, say, to have, say, two children will be enough in this case, because it costs a lot.
Exactly.
Cost.
Exactly.
For
Dr.
the
Fakhri,
family
if we can
and for
speak
the...
about this challenge in numbers,
Yeah.
because people do not understand why the growth, the enormous growth in population would really hurt dramatically any developments or any success to any development in numbers.
He addressed this problem smartly by connecting the rate of increase in population and the density and demographic density. So we lived 103 million Egyptians living on almost at most 8% of the Egyptian territory. So the remaining say area of Egypt is almost 92% is not inhabited. So in this case, what I mean is, so what we have to go out of the Delta region. So we have new communities, like 14 of those new communities. Like we have the new administrative capital, and we have Al Alamein. We have Al Mansoura.
We have 20 or 24.
Yeah, we have almost. They mentioned say they have like 30 of those new communities. So I mean, so what you need is to encourage people to move and go out and live in those areas, but it costs. So they are asking them, and instead of say building your residential house on the agricultural area.
And this is another
warning.
warning.
So it's linking this with this, because he said it costs a lot. It's almost for one feddan, it costs like, for the old land, it costs like 1 million Egyptian pounds. That it's already paid, but in this case, if you build on those agricultural area, your house in a random, way. So it's better to go and move to the new, new communities. We offered you with the industrial zone. They generate a new employment opportunities, so you will find a job there. So government will support those new communities with different services. So what I mean is, by linking the rate of growth of population with, because he mentioned that we have like the rate of growth of population almost 2% annually. So you have like almost 2 million children, newly born children every year. So they need a lot of services from the government. So government has to find ways and means in order to provide them in our budget. So this will burden budget with a lot of say expenditures. Meanwhile, this will the only way for the Ministry of Finance is to collect more taxes. More taxes will burden the people. So it's better in this case to have, say the rate of growth of population in Egypt is almost 4 times as much the average, 4 times as much as the average world rate of growth, population rate of growth. The average rate of growth of world population is 0.6%. It did not reach 1%, even 1%. So 0.6%, that's average for the whole world population rate of growth in Egypt is 1. It's almost 2%. It's too much. So in order to satisfy their needs, those 200 million Egyptians newly born every year, so you need to have a real economic rate of growth of at least 3 times as much our population rate. At least your economy should grow and your GDP should grow in real terms by not less than 5-6%. To have this 5-6% to satisfy the needs of those 2 million newly born children or population rate of growth, then you have to have more investment. Total investment, what you need is to have investment, to invest 25% of your GDP. That's to achieve 6% of GDP. Well, so in this case, we don't have enough savings in Egypt. So the only way to fill this gap,
burden.
yes, to fill this gap between our, say low savings, our domestic savings, relatively low compared to our ambitious investment. So this gap, this financial gap, needs to be filled. So the only way to fill it, either to attract more foreign direct investment, it doesn't, give any burden to our economy, FDI, foreign direct investment.
Definitely.
But foreign direct investment, sometimes it's not enough. So you have to borrow money. So it will, borrowing means more debt burden. So people, they should think about it. Plus, in order to have high quality new generation, they can create, high quality of education means they are raised up in such a way that, they can market themselves. And instead of looking for a job in the government, so government, they don't have enough jobs anyway in the government sector. So the only way is the private sector. Our hope is the private sector. Right now, the private sector, large companies, they offered, but what we have is the small and medium and micro size. Those are the backbone of the private sector, so they need to be encouraged. But before encouraging them and giving them the major role to play in the economic front and economic development, you have to qualify them by giving them easy access to credit, by training their people. Government can train their people. By giving, support, technological support, and so forth. In this case, if they are qualified, this 70%, the backbone of the private sector, then they can lead and generate more employment opportunities. They can export and increase our export. They can, whether they are domestic or foreign investors.
I guess that was exactly the urge and the call of the president, which he made during his statements, calling on the private sector, particularly the national one, to come and to participate and to be real partners to the development and contribute more to their countries. You have said many things here that we want to pinpoint on, but before I move on with those issues, let me take here our second report and then we'll speak over. Upper Egypt residents await outcome of 7 years of achievements. Let's watch.
Upper Egypt's residents are awaiting the fruit of 7 years of strenuous efforts to achieve development in the southern governorates under the leadership of President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi, as such projects will soon be crystallized on the ground. Over the past few years, 14 axes have been established to facilitate the movement of residents over the 2 banks of the Nile River, and Prime Minister Mustafa Madbouli has been following up the implementation plans in Upper Egypt upon the directives of President al-Sisi in order to accomplish a set of projects in various fields, i.e. transport, electricity, health, housing and industry, before the end of the current year. According to statistics of the Planning Ministry, government investments allocated for Upper Egypt in the fiscal year 2021-2022 reached £92.4 billion, with the aim of improving quality of life and providing honorable living chances to residents. President al-Sisi's plan to develop and upgrade Upper Egypt governorates has been launched in 2014 as part of a national project to develop Upper Egypt along 4 axes. The establishment of the General Authority for Development of Upper Egypt, the national project of launching integrated industrial zones in South Egypt, as well as other programs for pumping investments to such governorates in the industrial, livestock, tourism, and agriculture. According to such plans, the southern region of Upper Egypt is to receive 55.2% of allocated investments, which worth £51 billion, while the central region is to receive £22.1 billion with a percentage of 23.9%, in addition to a percentage of 20.9% for the northern Upper Egypt region, which is valued at £19.3 billion. Some industrial organizations, such as the World Bank, have been involved in the development plan of Upper Egypt. As such, plans are targeting the development of the poor and most needy villages, which are in dire need of water and sanitary drainage stations, health centers, clinics, as well as other service projects. Meanwhile, a Republican decree was issued to set up an investment-free zone in Aswan on an area of 187 fedans, which comprises 160 projects that will provide as many as 15,000 jobs opportunities for youths in Upper Egypt. The new zone is expected to achieve $1.1 billion of local added value and would contribute to increasing exports by $675 million annually. Several projects in the new zone have been implemented by the Armed Forces, Engineering Authority and Long Live Egypt Fund, with allocations reaching up £609 million, including £320 from Long Live Egypt Fund and £289 million from the budget of the Planning and Administrative Reform Ministry to promote the living standards of Aswan residents.
Right, welcome back, and back to you, Dr. Fakhri. And as I said, you raised a very important point that we really need to pinpoint just for a few minutes. But the issue of awareness. Because, for an instance, this woman that has delivered six children, unbelievable, how is she thinking? Why 6 children? And those who are cultivating on already reclaimed land, why are you doing that? It will cost double the price of what we are doing in the reclamation of new.
Well,
I mean, the battle of awareness, and how important is that?
Very important, of course. Look at the media. That's one of the responsibility of the media to increase public awareness to the major challenges facing Egypt. In addition to the government, they have to do their best in order to rebuild the awareness for those challenges, major challenges facing Egypt. Therefore, the only way to increase public awareness beside the media, government and other entities, private sector, and social media.
The social media, yes.
Yes, but the most important thing, education. Normally, when we have a new system for education, that like what we have right now, education, it's very important to know that if we are educated in a good quality education, it reduces my resistance toward having a new things. When you try to develop a new thing, like, say, when you talk about high rate of population, 2 children are enough. So if I'm highly educated, then my resistance toward, say, producing more children, I mean, well, I'll accept that. So it's easy to accept, and your resistance toward new ideas will be coming less if you have good education. So education is the only way. Besides, education right now in the new system is built on not how much you know. No, it's not. It's how much you understand. Sometimes people memorize 100%. When they read things, they memorize everything. But if you ask him how much you understand out of this, maybe he will understand maybe 10% out of what he is memorizing, 20%. If it's good enough, then he will, if it depends. But anyway, so it's right now the system, the new system, which we're implementing almost in the last 3 or 4 years, it's not completed yet. It takes time in order to generate new generation. I mean, to have new generation. They know how to, to understand. Besides, to be more creative at the end of the implementation of this new system, education new system. To be creative, more innovative, to be more, to have the ability, the ability to analyze things and create new things. So this is, if families, and most of the families, especially in the rural areas, in remote areas and so forth, if they believe and their awareness increase that, if they invest more money in educating their children, in public schools, in the new educational system we are implementing right now. So they should believe in it and not to resist this new educational system. So if they believe that they are investing in human capital is very important. So 2 children, to invest in 2 children would be fine. The death rate for children is almost nil. Compared to, say, 50 years ago. Normally people 50 years ago, they used to produce more children because of the children death rate was high. But now we have, a better healthcare system and so forth. So it's better to, to have only 2 children. In China, in China, they implemented the policy of one-child policy. It was, imposed by the Communist Party. But not, we don't have we are not a Communist Party.
Yes.
We have a leadership. They believe that, they care about his citizen and his people. And also, normally when we are shy, when we talk about, 2 children are enough, but it's about time now that, people, they should be aware of this problem. If they have the full and complete awareness, in Arabic, al-wa'i, in this case, I think people will start, be more disciplined, to have better, high quality of life, high quality of education, high quality of healthcare system, and so. So in the last 7 years, we spend, Egypt spent like almost 7 trillion Egyptian pounds for the whole Egyptian citizen in different life fronts and so forth. When we talk about the Upper Egypt, the focus now is in the Upper Egypt because Upper Egypt deprived from, government services and development for the last 50 years. As President Fattah Sisi mentioned that in the last 60 years, they were deprived and they have accumulated problems. So the gap between,
Actually,
Upper
2
Egypt
areas were very much neglected. Upper Egypt and Sinai. And those are put on the high priorities of the government as we really see. Those 2 areas are topping the agenda of the developmental projects that are taking place. Indeed, they were very much neglected for a long time, and hence came the time, particularly after the presidency assumed office. If we are speaking here about Upper Egypt, projects that have been carried out in many of the cities, and we're speaking about different sectors that projects have been carried out. How do you view that, and why projects are in all the sectors all together?
Thank you, Mona, because you just highlighted a very important point related to the Upper Egypt and Sinai. Because Sinai, our dream is to urbanize Sinai with 5 million Egyptians. Right now, we have almost 500,000 Egyptians.
Yes.
But we are ready now. We implemented a number of projects to make it easy for people to go back and forth from the Delta to Sinai through Suez Canal, and we have now 6 tunnels. So it's easy to move from from the Delta, from the west bank of the Suez Canal to the east in Sinai and so forth. So it's easy now to go back and forth. So Sinai, now, so we have Suez
also
Canal
the
and we have
speedy
tunnels.
train, right?
And we have investment, a lot of investment for Sinai now. We have a lot of projects in Sinai. If we talk about the other side, the other part, Upper Egypt was neglected also. So right now, they invested 1.1 trillion Egyptian pounds in the last 7 years in Upper Egypt. So the last 7, well, this to make the Upper Egypt start to, you know, say, have the project like we have during, when we watch this report, when they had the complex for gasoline in Asyut.
Yes.
So this will benefit, that's Upper Egypt. So this will create more employment for the people in Upper Egypt. I mean, they have more product, gasoline product in Upper Egypt, easy access. I mean, it will be cheaper to transport this gasoline to all Upper Egypt. And instead of carrying gasoline from Cairo, Alexandria, it's far from Upper Egypt. So those kind of projects, I mean, we talk about infrastructure, water supply project, and we have power supply, like electricity project. In addition to, I mean, beside the decent life, this is, if you, I mean, this for Upper Egypt local program, local development program started from 2017, almost 4 years ago. But now we have, beside that, we have also Decent Life, Haya Karima initiative. It covers all villages in Egypt. I mean, all centers in Egypt. I mean, all governorates. So it will cover the life for almost 8 or 60% of the Egyptian population. So this, the gap, the development gap between the urban areas and the rural areas was widened. Now we are trying to narrow this gap between urban area and rural areas. This is a big jump and very, very noble, development initiative for the people in villages to enjoy better life, better education, better health care, like those that are living in urban areas. So they will have internet good enough to, say if they have a problem, they can pursue their education while they are at home. If they have a sudden problem like COVID-19, they can continue receiving their education while if they have strong signals of internet and so forth. This will cover, Decent Life will cover this area.
Or interconnect
the
systems all together.
Yeah. So this is very
networks,
important.
yes.
I think this is a revolutionary, kind of
overall
development, yes, for Upper Egypt and Sinai, and hope that this will continue. Now we are in the second, I think they are preparing for the second phase for the Haya Karima, Decent Life initiative. So more villages will be enrolled in this initiative, will be covered.
Yes, indeed. We spoke about the projects that have been carried out. We spoke about this very ambitious plan. We spoke about how important it is to have awareness and all this. Let me hear, just to give an objective opinion and a conclusion, what do we really need to address? What challenge are we meeting in this upcoming stage, so we can really pinpoint our fingers on and start working on them?
Well, we have to look into the, world front, challenges faced by Egypt. If we take into consideration the world outlook, economic outlook. Currently, the whole world, while facing COVID-19, they are facing a number of challenges after the economies start to recover, I mean the world economy start to recover, we have a high inflation rate worldwide. So how Egypt will face this a wave of high inflation rate? Right now there is a harmony between the monetary policy and fiscal policy to streamline this forthcoming inflation rate coming, imported from abroad. That's number one. Second, the high debt, the world debt is accumulating and comes to the point where it endangers those developing countries, low-income countries. Thanks God that Egypt is not among those countries. Why? Because if the central banks in different developed countries, advanced economies and other, start to increase interest rate, this will make it difficult for countries to borrow from abroad because inflation, interest rate will be, will increase. Since we have high inflation rate, central banks will increase, including the Federal Reserve Bank in USA. The increase in the interest rate started in the Bank of England started raising interest rate. It will be followed in the second half of the coming year, will be followed by the Federal Reserve Bank in USA and other European countries. This will make it difficult for countries. So Egypt is trying to minimize, to reduce and leveling down its budget deficit so as to borrow less money, because it will cost a lot. So right now, what we are
the challenge are the dimensions
what
and
we
the
are aiming is
circumstances
to
that
make
are
our
facing
economy
us.
more resilient, more flexible, more justice, more green.
Yes.
To have
more green,
more smarter,
more green. The theme of the yes, indeed.
Yeah.
Indeed. Unfortunately, my time is out here. I wanted to continue on with this very fruitful conversation, but Dr. Fakhri Feky, Professor of Economics at Cairo University and former member of board of the Central Bank of Egypt, we thank you so much for being with us.
It's my pleasure.
My pleasure always. Dear viewers, many thanks for watching. Next episode will be on Sunday, so until next Sunday, it's goodbye.